in all seriousness, let's talk about a little bit of the hiatus that we just went on and how that might honestly affect the show moving forward. Um, so yeah, as we were talking about watching the Brazil show at Rock in Rio, I was very emotional. Um, and a couple hours after that had gone by, and I was up here in this very room in my studio, and I had a bit of a episode, for lack of better. I could explain what it is, and then I'll get to what I found out it was. But after that emotional thing, I was actually up here journaling audio. As I said before, I'm not very good with the writing and reading, so I just had this microphone and I was journaling my experiences and my emotions. I started thinking about doing that through the years of therapy. I never really got down to doing it. So up here by myself for about 2 hours, I was just journaling my life and talking about that stuff. And I was writing some music, and this episode happened. The only way I know how to describe it was a panic attack, psychotic episode of some kind. And it really scared me, obviously. And nothing like that had ever happened to me. I didn't really know what it was. I was convulsing and dry heaving. I wasn't under the influence of alcohol. I'd given that up in March. I was using marijuana, but found out it had nothing to do with this. So yeah, I just went through this convulsing, kind of heaving. I had this problem in my leg for about 6 months leading up to this point too, and I had just gotten work done on it. Sports massage, where they really get in. You've seen the ones on YouTube, guys, where they're breaking someone's foot down who has really bad plantar fasciitis and they're screaming and shit. Well, I went and did one of those things basically for my leg, and you'll understand why that's pertinent to this story in a little bit here. So all this stuff kind of came. My body was just going crazy. It was emotional. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was possessed actually at a point. Everything went blurry. Saw a lot of white. Just yeah. I was making guttural animalistic noises that I had never made before. I can recreate them, so I know that I wasn't completely psychotic. But or having a psychotic episode rather. Not to diminish that. And in this whole experience, I freaked out. I ran down to my wife, and I explained to her what I was experiencing. I eventually got to calm down, took a bath. The next morning, I talked to my therapist about the experience, and with his knowledge, with my wife's concerns, with everything, and my own concerns, I checked into a facility immediately. That day, it was really interesting. My therapist, I explained to him what was going on. Obviously, he's known all my deepest stuff. I mean, he's my therapist since 2013. So almost as if he had been waiting for me to ask him for something like this for years, he pulled out a place called Sierra Tucson out of his back pocket, which is a mental health facility in Tucson, Arizona. They do trauma, all sorts of really anything to do with mental health, including addiction, substance abuse as well, and generally anything to do with mental health. So I didn't know much about this place. I didn't do any research on it. My wife didn't do any research on it other than when my therapist said, hey, look at this website, see if they have a spot for them. And it all happened so fast, right? Because this was such a traumatic thing. And, my wife seeing me in that way, she'd never seen me in that way. And we have a son in the house. So we wanted to make sure, I didn't know what had happened or what was going on either. I thought I had a psychotic episode, literally. So checked into this place. Man, it was was more clinical than I expected it to be. I thought I was going to go to some kind of like fun Malibu, one of those fun retreats you hear about the celebrities going to, you know? Um, it was not that. It was nice in its own way. It was everything that I needed, but it was very clinical. It was definitely a little one flew over the cuckoo's nest in the first part that they, they pull you into called Copper Sky, and they evaluate you before they put you into the residential area, just to make sure you're not going to, I don't know, because like I said, they treat everything here. So you got people from all different walks of life and all different levels and of their rock bottom or whatever it may be, or some people are being forced. There's military veterans, other first responders there to deal with their trauma from being in battle or fighting fires or working at the hospitals, police, all of it, you name it. All those things that we know happen to other human beings, but how do they deal with it? I didn't even know a place like this existed, which is why I wanted to be able to come on here and talk about this, and really thought about it for the last few months. This place just takes care of everything. Like it's something that while I was there, I really feel like anyone in any walk of life can benefit from time there. I'm not saying everyone needs to go there for the 24 days, 28 days, 30 days, whatever it is, 60 days. But some time to understand where we are as human beings rather, in understanding our something as simple as our own emotions and where they come from, how we process them, how the brain works, how the nervous system, how it's all tied in, how our bodies store emotions. Something as simple as that, something that we don't hear about a lot in Western culture. Apparently they hear about it their whole lives in Eastern culture, but I can only talk about my experience here. This is my truth. This is what my knowledge is. So I don't want to put it out there that's anybody else's. Yeah, I just didn't know about all that stuff. Like you hear as you grow older and do your research about books such as like The Body Keeps Score, talking about specifically trauma that if you may have gotten rid of in your mind, but your body is still holding on to it, and that could sound kind of spiritual or odd to some, but when you go to a place like this and they explain the science behind it and why it's true that your body does store these things, that your mind and your body are two different brains. Really, they call it the lizard brain, and I should have opened up my Trapper Keeper and gone through some notes before this. I said Trapper Keeper and notes because this place was like going to school. It really was. That's why I think everyone can benefit from it. It was literally, I affectionately called it Feelings University. It was, you go into different classes and different groups where you're talking and learning and feeling and doing all of it. It was like 15 years of therapy rolled into a month. With so much knowledge, so many brilliant doctors there too, and psychiatrists and brilliant minds. And the reason why I loved it so much was that none of what they were saying was super like black and white, for lack of better terms. Like it wasn't just this way or that. It's like, this is what we know now, and this is what we've learned, and we're continuing to learn more about the psyche, about this stuff. No one knows everything about anything, first of all, but we definitely are far from understanding our own emotions and stuff like that, and where they come from and why. And they broke everything down to the nervous system in these lectures and classes very brilliantly. And I just, like I said, I have a Trapper Keeper right here with all my notes in it that I took while I was there. I went to school, man. I never went to college. This was my college, going from class to class and learning about trauma and why we use substances. I learned there the majority, I'll just say, somewhere if I put a number on it, it'd be somewhere in the 90 percentile. But the majority of people with substance issues or problems have some form of trauma, and the substance is just a masking coping mechanism, which I think sounds like a lot of people might say, well, duh. But no one's ever gone into finding what those things are, right? Not enough, anyway, in my opinion, or I hadn't. Again, I should only speak for myself here. Um, so to reach out and find those exact trauma moments of your life that cause you pain, maladaptive behaviors, coping mechanisms, the way that you interact with another human being. All of these things are stuff that you store in your memory, in your body, all this stuff. And it's the reason why, if you're not aware, you feel a certain way when you're talking to a certain person, or all these things. I could go off for, I mean, it's too much information. I can't even do it justice because, one, I haven't gone over my notes very recently, and two, I'm not an expert. I was a student. And at any rate, I went in there not knowing what I was getting into, what it was going to be. And what I learned, what had happened, was a trauma response, as I was told. PTSD is usually the term for post-traumatic stress disorder. I learned that I don't have a PTSD, I have PTSR, response to trauma that has been stored in my body. Something that I think I've talked to you two about in private. A traumatic event that happened to me when I was quite a bit younger. I don't want to go into details on that, unfortunately, not because I want to be forthcoming with the reason why that I won't go into it, though. Not it's because this is a platform that I imagine eventually, some people I don't necessarily think need to hear the details of what happened to me or even what the event was in their lives. If they ever need to know that, then I would totally tell them. I would obviously tell them. But I hope I never have to, because it's just something that they wouldn't need to know. So in that, I just want to be very honest with that, that I won't say exactly what the trauma was. I never plan to. But I've told you guys in confidence. And I discovered it about 2 years ago. It had come up, and something had triggered this memory, or the events around this memory in my mind, and I thought I was dealing with it for the last 2 years, taking time off of drinking, as I've done here and everything. I learned so much about my alcohol, and my struggle with it, my relationship with it, where it stemmed from, and I just learned so much about that, and coming to grips with the more understanding of, like I said before, the body keeps score. I haven't read that book yet, by the way, but it is out there for anyone that wants to read up on it. It's on my list. I have several books that I am reading and going through since I've been out of Sierra Tucson. That one is on there, but right now I'm in The Power of Now. That's another great book. What's his name? I'd have to look it up. Anyways, sorry, I'm going to get way off topic here. There's just so much information here. Long story longer here. I had a traumatic event happen to me when I was about 18 years old. My brain and ego and psyche bottled it up so much that I forgot it had ever happened, for 20 years, until I sobered up for 6 months from alcohol, and something triggered it, and I started remembering it, tried to work through it. Basically, for 20 years, I've been abusing alcohol because it was keeping it down. It was making sure that I didn't have the memory. Waited long enough. Everything. The emotional thing of watching the 40th anniversary, or the 40th Rock in Rio, us performing. All of these things just culminated this emotional breakthrough. Originally, I thought it was a breakdown, but I come to realize it was a breakthrough. In all this, I learned that it's a beautiful thing. I'm so fucking happy now that I dealt with this thing properly. Got the help rather that I needed. I didn't do this on my own, of course. Had the support of my friends and family, everyone closest to me through it all. I'm grateful, humbled. I've dealt with this thing to the best of my ability at this point. It's a constant practice, but I've learned so much, so many tools, and so many things that I want to bring into my new life, for lack of a better term. it's the same life, and I'm happy that I have it. I'm more I'm more grateful than I ever was before. I was grateful before, but having this new lease on life based on emotional trauma and emotional damage, and never understanding why I felt a certain way for 20 years. Well, all this life was happening around me. It was beautiful, and I didn't know why there was certain feelings I was still having, and why I couldn't get past them. And it definitely put some challenges in there that I didn't necessarily need. Um, so moving forward, I'm just so happy and so grateful to have gone through that experience. And I want to help others in any way that I can. So moving forward on the show, you may see some changes in me. I will say more, I don't know, tender, emotional side, maybe a little deeper into the conversations, I guess. But I wanted to let everybody know about what I went through recently, in case that ever happens to anyone. Because like I said, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know you have a trauma response, and then basically like an ayahuasca trip where you purge. You literally purge these emotions out of you. And I did it several times while I was in Sierra Tucson without any drugs. I was completely sober in there, not even prescription drugs. And I had my first out-of-body experience. I've never had that with any hallucinogens. I had it completely sober through a somatic exercise and massage and meditation. And I had a complete out-of-body experience. I thought that was bullshit. I thought out-of-body experiences were just trips. And I've had trips before, but it was like, no, this was completely different. And I became pretty spiritual, not religious. Those are two different things. I actually have an even stronger dislike for religion than I did before. But I do love spirituality, and I understand that there is something greater. I don't know. Greater is a bad word for that. There's something bigger. There's something in control. I don't know what it is, but there's something in control of what's going on. There's too many rules, too many things. And also, one of the things that I learned that I want to continue to always stay in is the idea. I painted this picture of being a pebble of sand on the beach, not being able to change the tide. And I said that to my friends and whatever for a long time now. And I realized I didn't have it quite right. It was actually the pebble of sand in the ocean, floating around, and without a chance of controlling the tide, the current, any of it. But you still fight it. You know what I mean? Like the universe and whatever is happening is so much bigger. We're such small pieces of it that it's going to happen anyway, and you have a choice of either fighting it or just kind of surfing it, floating with it, whatever you want to do. I should probably try and surf with it. One of my buddies there coined the phrase to surf with it, and that sounds better than just floating with it. But at any rate, it was an amazing experience that I came away from. I can honestly say today, a more whole person with more tools and better practices moving forward to be a better husband, a better friend, a better father, just a better human being, and hopefully a help in any way that I can be. I know you guys know this too. I've always been an advocate for mental health. Try to be anyway as much as I can. Spoken about it openly here on the show. There is some more things coming up. My good friend Andy Oliphant, who was there at the Death Bats Club thing, who was our A&R, the first guy that brought us to Warner Brothers all those years ago, still a good friend of ours.
Oh, he was there? That's awesome.
Yeah. His brother's actually Timothy Oliphant, the actor, and they put together a charity event. They're starting to put together charity events for mental health. So I'm going to try to get involved with that in any way that I can. At any rate, I just want to say, I bring up that to once again say the name of this place, Sierra Tucson, or any place like it. I think there's some other places. If you're really struggling with something, I mean, anything mental health, I highly recommend a place, Sierra Tucson, or a place like it. to help work through it. Just do some research on some of these places. I mean, even just to like, while I was there, we were under, strict regulations and stuff, which I wasn't expecting, but it's fine. You know, phone time is limited, screen times, if anything. I felt like my son. I was like, you can't have your screen time. Because for me, it was also weird because I was in there for this emotional thing. There was a lot of people that were in there for substance and addiction. And although alcohol is tied into my 20 plus years of abuse and stuff and what I went through, holding this, repressing this memory, although that's true, it wasn't what I was going in for. I was going in for this, what the fuck just happened to me? I wasn't there to get off weed. I wasn't there to get off alcohol. I'd already quit alcohol before that, and I'm good with my weed. So being around that was like different because like everybody had like the rules, like because they're dealing with addict. People were just coming off of something. They're there specifically to get off of it, so they have strict rules for those, and obviously it happens to everybody. Anyways, I digress. Places like Sierra Tucson, other places where they're in the forefront of just dealing with it in mental health, because they attack it from every angle, guys. It's not just your brain through therapy. There's group therapy. There's the lectures that you learn so much about, the readings, the teachings, the body. They treat the body a lot for this. A lot of the massage and activities and stuff. That's how it was at Sierra Tucson. Now, I know I keep saying their name, and it's not a cheap place. There are others like it. I want to point out what they had, so that other people. So if you're looking into another facility, I would say like see what kind of checks, what boxes get checked there, and make sure it's the right place. There's a lot of places even there that I was running into. I made lifelong friends in there, and some of them had been in and out of other places that are called rehabs. Like they would be there for rehab. This wasn't a rehab, but it's for some people it was a rehab anyways. And they'd gone through places that were complete scams where horrible things happened to them. They went in there looking for help and horrible things happened to them. So I know that exists, but don't let those shitty people and those shitty things deter you from finding the real help that is out there, is my general point there. I'll continue to talk more about this for the rest of my life and on this show, and help out in any way that I can. So, and if, I'll try my best. If you're struggling and need some help right here, just put it in the comments. Maybe somebody else will help you out if I can't get to it. Or, follow us, go to our Discord, whatever. If you're looking for help, I'm sure there's, I'll try and get in there, if nothing else. But, there's places that can help you sort through your thoughts and your emotions and stuff. Everyone's got shit. Everyone sitting here on this show's got shit. I know your guys' shit, some of it. I don't know all of it. Most of my shit, not all of it. But that's the way to look at life. Like, you're going to walk around on the streets and people say shit and get so mad at each other because everyone's been in that moment where they said something they didn't mean to. Right? But they've also been in the moment where someone said one of those things to you and you feel like it's such an attack. It's like, but you got to see where that's coming from because you've been there before too. It's not about you. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of that's why I say everyone could benefit from a place like this. Once you learn so much about why we interact the way that we do, and it's more about our personal emotions and how our perspectives are built and who we are, it's more about us than it is the other person. I think it'll help everyone get along a lot better. I mean, again, there's dorms in this place. I mean, one of the dorms is for those first responders. Another one is for females only who've been through a certain kind of trauma. So I was with a lot of the veterans in there too. I befriended one of them very closely. He was awesome dude out of Alaska. I can't say anybody's names, of course. It's all anonymous, but he knows who he is. I met some other amazing people in there that I was just on the phone with someone the other night who was having a rough time. So it's a constant work for anyone who's looking at their mental health as a struggle. It is a struggle. It's a practice. It's a work where We're born into trauma. We're not born into sin, but we are born into trauma.
Can I ask a couple questions about
Yeah,
it?
absolutely. Let's go. That
Well,
was pretty much my whole thing anyway. So let's open it up to questions.
Well, I know Brandon's. It's past Brandon's bedtime here, so
No, he's got another hour.
I had a cup of coffee. I just have to go to the gym.
Well, one thing that just real quick, you did talk about how the massage triggered it. I don't know if you want to talk about that or if that's part of it or how that plays in. I mean, you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, how that played into it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. Yeah, that was going back to more how the body keeps score. That ideology which is a fact in my opinion now. That pain that I was having, everything was a culmination of all my emotions, and it was this trauma that had been stored in my hip area, which is apparently, after I learned, according to the experts, that's where a lot of males will store their trauma, especially this specific kind that I had. So it was causing a lot of pain in my right leg through the hip. So I went there. I think it was muscular and ligament. So I think when he loosened up some stuff, to be honest, is basically why I brought it up, is because that physical act, I believe, and I'm pretty validated in it, was actually something that helped push out and bring out this emotional response to the trauma that I had been repressing.
All right. So you had called us, kind of said, hey, I want to let you know everything's all right. Don't worry. And Brandon and I were like, well, I didn't know there was anything to be worried about, but okay. And then you end up calling and letting us know right before you went on the plane. And then we got a few contacts, but I'm just curious more about the facility itself and the program that you do. So you show up, they do an assessment of you. Is it just more of an interview kind of thing, or how does that start? And can you just take us through what classes you took and what that journey is, or is that kind of secret to whatever goes on in there?
No, I think I can cover it pretty well without going into. Yeah, I can do that. So the first place you go into is called Copper Sky. When I say your process there, that's like, as I said, everyone comes in from different walks. Some people are coming in and they're literally, finishing a bottle of Jack Daniels as they're getting dropped off. So before they put you into residential, they need you completely sobered up. So that's one reason why they would process you there. They do a drug test on everybody. They do a psych test. It also helps them determine what dorm you're going to be in. As I said, there was 3 different dorms. I think there's actually more than that. Now that I think about it, there's 3 main ones anyway. And so they're assessing you. They're just assessing what state you're in that you're coming into. And they want you in, a sober, aware, cognitive state before they send you over into residential with everybody else, where you have more freedoms. When you get into there, it's the insane asylum style. Sorry to use the term.
Well, how do you feel? You just came off this big meltdown. You're going there. What is
after
your
playing in
state
front of
mind?
125,000 people? I came in 2 days later, I had a meltdown, and then went into this facility.
Yeah.
So it was. I played Sunday night. I was in the facility Thursday evening.
And that high and low ultimately wasn't a part of this, or maybe it was, or
no, because that low came after. You know what I mean? Like that high. I guess maybe the trauma response, if you consider that a low. But yeah, no, that coming into that was absolute shock to the system. I didn't know. Yeah. I packed stuff that I didn't think was going to be a problem. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to bring in marijuana, but screens, technology, cords, everything. They took everything because they don't know. I understand why, of course. I wasn't mad about it, but I didn't think it through because everything happened so fast. I mean, you can't. It's a place where they're worried about you maybe wanting to commit suicide while you're in there. So all the sinks have everything's suicide proof, like a mental facility would be, as you would imagine. Meals are figured out and everything. You have prescriptions if you need them given to you at certain times. The Copper Sky, you can't leave that building unless you're a smoker, and you could go out and smoke during if the orderlies, not the orderlies, that's not what they call them.
Nurse Ratchet. Nurse Ratchet.
The people working there. Sorry, what they're actually called will come to me later. They'll take you out, and I don't smoke anymore, but I took the opportunity to go outside. Obviously, I was only there for a night. Some people are there longer. Some people don't even like go in there for like an hour, and they're like, okay,
do
go.
they just have rooms and
show
you
up.
sleep or do whatever? Or is it more just sitting like a waiting room?
It's rooms. You have your rooms that usually have two beds, bathroom in, and then there's a common area, and then and that's just for that first spot. And then once you go over to residential, it's like a campus. Like I said, there's the dorms, and then there's activity rooms. There's a couple activity rooms, and there's one activity room, one auditorium, and then classrooms, essentially, for lack of a better term. There's a pool, a grass field out there that I walked a lot, and there was a labyrinth. Oh my God, the labyrinth was amazing. A rock labyrinth. I had a spiritual awakening there one of the days. That was amazing. Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it was a campus. So you're walking, and you get a schedule the night before. You wake up, you follow that schedule. So you're passing by with these other people you're getting to know. And it felt very much like high school, dude. You're like, oh,
your own room?
What class do you have next? I had my own room. Most of the time you have a roommate, but I opted to spend the extra money to have my own room. But you usually have a roommate. I ended up being one of the lodge leaders for a few days before I left. Lodge leader was just someone who introduces themselves as the first people come in and everything like that to the dorm and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, it was. So
you mentioned brain mapping. What does that mean? I don't even.
I didn't say that here, but I'm glad you brought it up because I've told you about the brain mapping in our other talks. So yeah, that was another thing. Like I said, they bring on the science of it too. They hook you all up, like you've seen on TV with all those little receptors and stuff. They did it on my body and my head a couple different times, and they run these stimulant tests. So they put these goggles on, flashes lights, put these ear things on. It's sensory stuff.
Yeah. And
then it purposely does these things and shows your gamma, not your gamma. Is it your gamma rays? It's basically all the chemicals in your brain and how they fire and how they connect and everything. I'm doing, again, terrible job. I apologize. I'm not an expert and I don't know all these words.
Well, dumb it down for us because
yeah. So it's basically the receptors and how everything talks to each other. That's the brain mapping. They see how it works, how a normal functioning brain's supposed to be, and where you have things that are higher, lower, everything like that.
But are they showing you images or how does it show?
Is it like
graphs.
an EEG?
Yes, it's like an EEG. While it's happening, it's like an EEG, but then when afterward, I get a graph basically that shows me, and then they go over it with me to explain where my brain's fucked up or where it's fine, basically. And then they have treatments for that too. They have sensory treatments for that as part of the program, or it can be part of the program. I think it was an extra, but they use sensory to basically take those roadmaps of all these connectors, and the ones for me specifically, I had the hormones and chemicals of ruminating thoughts, which was right here in the brain apparently, and it just ruminating thoughts, things that what's up. So what they do is they use sensory stuff, same thing, goggles, and earpieces, and it basically is supposed to help, for lack of a better term, sweep away the track that you've made for that. If you picture it this way, like you're walking in a dirt path where you're leaving a path behind. Mm-hmm. So we're going to sweep that one away so that you don't keep ruminating back to the beginning of that.
Got
it. So they kind of try to sweep away some of those connections for you, which was really interesting. Didn't know that was a thing. I mean, I heard about brain mapping maybe a little bit before, but not that there was a treatment involved in it afterward or anything like that, if that makes sense. So there was that. I'm glad you brought that up because that was a very interesting thing. There was some more extreme versions of that as well, using magnets and stuff for heart people with basically I don't know how many people have like studied this or looked at some of the articles on it or whatever, but the way the brain works and all these things are so connected. There's so many different highways in your brain, and they could get fucking all jumbled up with trauma and trying to figure these things out. They could actually visually see it now, and there's several different ways that they try to straighten out all these tanglements. I mean, psilocybin's been one that's used for trauma patients. There's some other cutting edge ones that they're using. I mean, some of the stuff I learned about is hard for me to talk about because I didn't actually do, because it was for more extreme cases, right? Again, I befriended someone who had been in over 265 combats, and like you don't compare. I forget the term, but you don't compare traumas. That's not what you do. Trauma is trauma to anybody. It doesn't matter the event or anything like that. However, 265 times during my one event, you can understand why there's more wires that need to be uncrossed. So there's other things that they do as well. I'd never done something as simple as acupuncture. Have you guys done acupuncture before?
It's so funny. I was just talking about this weekend with my family. They all do it, and I was like, I would love to do it. I've never done it before. You found it helpful?
I found it very helpful, especially if it's. See, again, there's different ways you can go about it. You go in for acupuncture, strictly muscular, sports acupuncture and stuff, or you go into somatic and therapeutic, and they pinpoint different things to get your brain and body and organs to work properly with your brain and talk with it. And I don't know how it all works still. I have a lot more research and a lot more studying to do with some of the books that I'm going to be reading, rather listening to, over the next years of my life. But I got plenty of time. I now know that I have plenty of time to learn all about this. I'm not supposed to know all of it. I didn't go to school for this. I'm not a fucking expert. But I do know how I feel and what I felt and why it just makes sense when you really think about it. When they break it all down for you, scientifically, and you think about your lizard brain and why that's called a lizard brain from evolution, and where our fight or flight is located directly here, connecting to our vagus nervous system that controls our body. So your fight or flight takes over. You're not controlling your body properly. There's so many of these things, and they're all connected. Everything is connected from your body to there, but they have their own entities, and you got to it's where the yin and yang comes from, guys. This is like that whole theory, that whole thought is mind and body. I always thought it was, good and bad, or like too much and too little. It's the harmony of mind and body. At least that's my understanding now. So, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the brain mapping though, because that's another great point of this kind of facility, and the fact that they're on the forefront of working towards finding stuff. Like they're still exploring new patients all the time. I mean, new patients come with new residents rather come with new traumas and new things all the time, I'm sure, I was in a group with someone with multiple personality. It's called something else now. Syndrome. They don't call it that anymore. I apologize. But yeah. Being around other people with different walks of life and being that vulnerable in that state is something that I'll always have with me for the rest of my life. And then the things that I learned there, and I'm super grateful for. I feel like, again, I just feel like I'm whole from it, and I understand things in such a better way, and I can just be that pebble surfing the fucking ebbs and flows of everything. Because, through stoicism and through everything, we all hear it, and it's the way we're supposed to think about things, is only control the things you can. That's how to live a stress-free life. Well, I've learned that you really don't control much. You just really don't control much in this universe. If you think you do, more power to you. But like, I don't think any of us, any one person, can honestly say that you change it's too great when you really think about the speck of dust that we truly are on this speck of dust in the universe. Like, there's too much else going on. Like, you're not in control of any of it. And then you could go into like the whole other scientific thought process mathematically of if we actually have free will or not. And that's a fun conversation to have at another night.
Well, I'm sure there will be some more questions I'll definitely have down the road about this as far as classes.
Anytime. It's a lot to cover, guys. So, I mean, I hope I did an okay job for the listeners and the viewers.
No, I was just, you had grazed over it. It's nice to hear a little more detailed about your feelings about it all, and I appreciate it, man. I'm just happy you reached out and got the help that you needed, and you have the support system you do, man. We care about you, so.
Very fortunate for the support system. Thank you so much, and thanks to everyone at home too. I don't get this fortunate life without you guys too, and that was something that I realized that helped me realize everything is like how grateful and how fortunate, how I'm just super humble and humbled. Calling yourself humble is pretty funny. I'm super humbled by the fact that I have this life. I often don't know why, but nevertheless, I'm here and I'm going to enjoy it and do the best I can with it. Which is why I wanted to bring this up and talk as openly as I can. As I said, it's a lot of information, I know, and I probably gave more questions than answers for a lot of people there that might be looking for more answers.
Well, you brought up magnets, so now you can talk about that when ICP comes on about, what magnets are for.
I'd love to. I know exactly how they work. I could, I'm glad you brought a funny thing to it, but I would just want to, before I bring it back to the funny and say goodbye to the people at home, I just want to reiterate, like, if you are struggling or you've had some kind of response like this that you don't know, don't bottle it up. Don't go to the usual coping mechanism. Go find some help. I'm so grateful. I know not everyone has a support team like I do. I have the best support team. And I don't think it's fucking debatable. My band, my brother's right here. My family, both chosen and given. Everyone was super supportive, and I know that's not the case for everyone, but there are people out there that will support you if you go and find them. I promise. I'll do the best I can, as far away as I might be.
No, and to your point, more on a micro level, because we can't all go to a facility like that, and maybe we might not have an experience like that, but we all have stresses, we all have traumas, we all have our things that we're working through, and like I've said it before on here, but I'll say it again, given the situation. I talked to you. I'd been in a funk for a long time, right? And I told you I knew what was wrong, and you said, "Well, what?" But I don't need therapy because I know what's wrong. I talk to everybody. I know what I'm feeling. I just can't do it. And you said, "Well, why can't you do it?" And I was like, "Oh, fuck you, dude. You're right." So I did need to go to someone. Shout out to Jacqueline Lugo, and it's been very helpful. So I want to thank you because I don't know. It's definitely a journey. It's not an overnight thing at all. And so what I'm saying is for us, other people who can't go to a facility like that, just seek it out. It's hard to ask for help, but just ask for help. And
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Even when you think you know, 'cause I know what they're gonna say. I know what it is. If that's the case, then why is it still a problem?
Exactly.
It was another term that I love. I think I heard, or whatever the case may be. I can't teach. I can't tell you something you already know. Once you know, if you quote unquote know something, no one could tell you anything else. You're not learning anymore. Once you know, you're done learning. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that we ever stop learning in any asset of our lives, or should. It's not our. That's one thing about our existence. I'm pretty sure is that we're pretty into exploration and keeping going. And you're never gonna know anything, not like that. you gotta be open minded in life, and you can't learn anything new if you already know. And I think that's something that everyone should really consider when they're having a bad day or an argument or something like that. And maybe it's not the case, but if you look at it, you might just see that you're not really being open minded to the fact that maybe you don't know what's best in that moment.
Well said.
Well put.
Brandon, are you perfect? You don't need any.
Yeah, no, I am. So Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, no. Brandon's the only person that couldn't benefit from this place, actually, or any help like that. He's got no issues whatsoever.
Well, his job eliminated like most of his stress by firing.
I mean, it really did. So, I mean,
That's true. That's true.
the issue worked itself out. No, I mean, I've liked to I like to dabble in like the psychedelic worlds when I get a lot of the stress on my shoulders, right, and get very introspective and try to do like a reset, right? Because like definitely been through the stress of work, definitely been through the stresses of life, and trying to figure out how to navigate through them. And I've always found that for me has worked the best, and that may not work for everyone, right? But for myself to introspectively try to figure out what decisions in my path led me to be where I'm at, and what opportunities may lie if I took other paths to get there. And I'm sure like going to a facility like this and having a different perspective on it and learning the science behind it would probably be very beneficial. But up till now, that's just the way I've dealt with things.
That's great. I'm super glad that you brought that up, because it brought up another point on that too. Because psychedelics is one way. I mean, that like I mentioned I have several friends that have dealt with their trauma that way as well. I brought up ayahuasca. That's one, you purge your traumas. That's what it's there for. You do in psychedelics like that. And I'm glad you brought up that that's not for everyone.
No,
again,
definitely not.
Sam brought up this facility isn't going to be for everyone. You might not have the ability, but seeking out options, seeking out things. Your therapy is another thing about therapy is it's yours and yours alone.
Yeah.
Therapy is they nailed that to the ground that I was in the facility, and I like to take that out into life as well. I'm paying for it. I'm the one there doing it. This is my therapy. Whatever I'm finding works is the way it should be. Don't let anyone else influence, because most of the time they don't know what they're if anyone's trying to influence you on how you need to help yourself with emotional traumatic thing that's yours and yours alone, and they're trying to give you advice on how to fix it, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So just like lovingly let them know, like, I'm doing it my way, because therapy is as individual as your fingerprint, as your perspective, as everything that makes you an individual. The therapy is there. You have the tools. Go seek out the tools. I'm not telling you what's going to work, or none of us are. No one knows what's going to work, but neither do you. That's the one thing that you can be sure of, is you don't know what's working either if you're struggling. So go seek out some of these tools, some of these places. I'd love to, in this next year, find some more links and stuff that we could put out here too, guys. And just keep it going. If I'm always open to talk about this. I want to do this in this episode with you guys. I'm sure it'll come up some other times throughout my, tenure here with the show, with other guests and stuff. But I wanted to cover it here so that I don't bring it up all the time and berate it or anything. This show's still about the conversations, the guests, the having the fun, all the while knowing that there's a seriousness to life, and we're all doing it. And this is just supposed to be entertainment, taking you away from it most of the time. But know that, we all care and we all love our fellow human beings out here in the world, and just want everyone to be happy and have a good time. So I don't want to beat the dead horse on this all the time and be bringing it up every episode or anything like that. But, sorry, I don't like saying but anymore. And, because both things are true. And it's just, I don't even know where I was going with that. I'm sorry, guys. The bottom line is, I don't want to.
Stone Cold said so.
Yes, the bottom line is Stone Cold said so. Thank you. Thank you for saving me there, Sam.